What is up, gamers? M107 here, and today I'm here to talk specifically about the gunplay of Battlefield 2042, and we're going to dive deep into the spread changes and why they are not enough. Basically, we've got two main problems right now: recoil on one hand and gun rolls on the other, so let's not waste time and get to the point. So before the spread changes that we're going to go over in a couple of seconds, weapons in Battlefield 2042 were literally lasers. This is something I've only heard and seen in gameplays, because I started playing from Season 5, where most of these spread changes were actually applied, so I couldn't experience what it was like. But looking back at those gameplays, I see a lot of people just mag dumping on an enemy from 150 meters away and get a kill like it's nothing. So people started complaining, and not like DICE didn't know how badly they messed up. It felt like they needed a wake-up call, and they just got that from the community. After a couple of months, they finally added spread to weapons, and right now in 2023, that is almost taken care of. But is it really all this game needs in terms of gunplay? Well, the simple answer is definitely no, at least from the perspective of those fans who have been playing other modern day battlefields like BF3 or Battlefield 4. Maybe if you look at BF 2042 as an independence game, something like Ubisoft's X-Defiant with no background and fresh out, these recoilless weapons, these laser beams, might not be a problem. But let me take you back to BF4, because that was the game I used to play before things were almost okay in BF 2042. To begin with, I believe you guys know the AEK 971. It's a Vault assault rifle in BF 2042 as well, or let's say FAMAS, something with a high rate of fire. Anything, even the MTAR that I'm playing with in the footage has a rate of fire of 900 RPM, and that was high by Battlefield 4 standards at least. And let me tell you, you could not kill someone from say 80 meters away just spamming your left click and going full auto on that dude with any of those guns. That was just not possible for two main reasons. First of all, Battlefield 4 has a very basic shooting mechanic called recoil, which both in games and in reality increases as fire rates go higher, and reason number two is simply how the spread works in Battlefield 4 or even BF3. So the more you shoot with a weapon non-stop and full auto, the spread of your bullets increases and the accuracy decreases with it. Think of a small circle in the middle of your screen, exactly where your crosshair is, okay? That small circle represents your spread. Of course, that circle is not something you can see, but for the sake of better understanding, just imagine this small little circle is where your bullets may fly and spread. As soon as you start shooting, the circle starts getting bigger and bigger, meaning your bullets now basically spread out more. Now with Battlefield 4, as soon as you stop firing, this circle started to get smaller and back to its minimum size. Of course, this process of going back to zero spread is not something that happens instantly, which means it takes time for the circle to get smaller, just as it takes time for it to grow bigger. All in all, this spread mechanic compelled everyone back in the glorious days of Battlefield 4 to start tap firing. Now, a quick explanation for those of you who might not be familiar with this term. Tap firing is you basically tapping your left click or the button of your controller, whatever you shoot with, instead of you just holding it down in order to control that spread mechanic. And as soon as the circle starts getting bigger, you stop shooting so the spread goes back to zero and you regain that lost accuracy. This was mainly used for high rate of fire weapons when trying to hit targets that were practically out of their effective range. Obviously, when you were playing AEK and someone jumped in front of you, you would go full auto on that guy because that range is where your gun is most powerful. But when the enemy is far away, tap firing becomes your number one priority, because otherwise there will be no shots on target. Now I have explained all that for you to better understand how important this spread thing was back in the day. This was something that needed skill, okay? You should have played with a specific weapon, learned how that spread works on that specific weapon, and found out how exactly you should be tap firing to get the most of that specific weapon. It was basically the difference between a seasoned player and a newbie, and it was something that could determine the outcome of most of the gunfights. Now in Battlefield 2042, this whole thing just feels ridiculous because of a certain weapon spread pattern that DICE weaved into the gunplay, and let's just not explain that because I believe you guys have already heard enough about those kind of stuff. Just know that it's not the same pattern used in BF3 and BF4, and because of that, tap firing in most cases feels like it increases recoil instead of decreasing bullet spread. I'm sure if you have spent enough time on BF 2042 and actually tried to effectively engage with targets in plus 80 meters, plus 100 meters of range, with, let's say, your main assault rifle, you would know that feeling of tap firing making everything even worse. And no, I'm not saying all of the weapons are suffering from the issue. This spread pattern somehow works good on some weapons. The MTAR, for example, or the SCAR are offering some nice tap firing experience. However, most of the assault rifles and SMGs are simply not good when tap firing. My experience with M16, G36 and M416 as well as most of the SMGs was terrible. You feel like going full auto even in longer ranges makes less recoil than tap firing, and because the guns are basically lasers with minimum recoil regardless of their fire rate, shooting does not need that much of a skill in Battlefield 2042. How many times have you died to some dude killing you from 100 meters away with a PP29 going full auto? If that gun was in BF4, first of all, it would never be so overpowered, and second of all, you just could not kill people from that distance that easily. Now, even for myself, it's easier if DICE sticks to the current pattern and doesn't change anything. For all of us, that's going to be easier because we have adapted to this pattern, and it's going to be so hard for everyone if anything suddenly changes. But that doesn't hide the fact that weapons should not be laser beams, and they should be used for their main purpose based on their category. This leads to my second point, which is basically gun rolls. Now, let me explain this with another example of Battlefield 4. Think of the LMGs. If you guys have ever played that game, you remember how LMGs turned into laser beams with bipods. They were just incredibly accurate when using bipods and had significantly less recoil. And they were used to suppress the enemy team and not letting them peek so easily and make it easier for your team to push objectives, especially in larger game modes like Conquest. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the main purpose of light machine guns in real world, and it was in Battlefield franchise up until a few years ago. You wouldn't see anyone using LMGs like people are using them in Battlefield 2042. They are now a stronger, more accurate replacement for assault rifles that doesn't need to reload because they've got a 200 bullet magazine. We're talking about some standards that were a part of Battlefield just a couple of years ago, and they are now completely faded. Let's talk about SMGs. Under what circumstance can someone literally destroy another player who's using an assault rifle, even a DMR for God's sake, from high ranges with a PP29 submachine gun? That is just making fun of the game's weapon balance. In the current situation of Battlefield 2042, I believe DMRs are just useless. If you need something to get kills from afar, just pick up a sniper rifle so at least people can't kill you with SMGs and assault rifles from 150 meters away. You really need to get away at least 200 meters for people to just ignore you and not laser you out from those distances. The main goal of all this was to make it clear why the weapons are not being used in the way they should be. The quickest answer is DICE simply doesn't want it. They're focusing on Sundance using they-them pronouns instead. If that's what you're focused on, then what hopes do we have for Battlefield standards being a part of Battlefield 2042 anymore? But here I am saying what needs to be said and try to make an example out of Battlefield 4, which was loved by every Battlefield fan I know personally. This topic needs a lot of opinions and thoughts of other Battlefield players. I'm only another fellow soldier on the battlefield and want to know what you guys have to say about the situation. So let me know what you think about what was discussed, weapon recoil and spread, tap firing, and even gun rolls. And feel free to disagree if you think I'm wrong. Hope you enjoyed the video, and until next time, stay cool.